This is chapter 7 of Understanding Human Communication. And this is the chapter on nonverbal communication. Now, this is one of the most important chapters. I cannot stress how important nonverbal communication is as a part of interpersonal communication overall. First of all, it talks about characteristics of nonverbal communication, and it has a very good definition. Nonverbal are messages expressed through non-linguistic means. That means everything other than the words themselves. In other words, if you talk about this, the way that you say it, the tone of voice, the clothes that you're wearing, the look on your face, everything about it, other than the actual words, that's all nonverbal. Some characters to remember though, characteristics of nonverbal to remember. Nonverbal behavior has communicative value. Nonverbal communication is primarily relational. It is how we manage our own identities, which we talked about in chapter 2, our identities that we express to other people, present to other people. It also helps us define our relationships. It helps people know how we feel about them. Nonverbal cues convey emotion typically. That's how we read emotions, the nonverbal that people give to us. Nonverbal communication is ambiguous. It can be taken in different ways at times. Sometimes there'll be a nonverbal symbol that you might not understand. You might think someone is saying one thing and they may be saying something different because nonverbal is often ambiguous. It is different from verbal communication, and I'll come back to that. Well, there's actually a chart if you're on the book. In my book, it's on page 158. It's probably a different page in the 14th edition, unfortunately. But verbal is one dimensional, whereas nonverbal is many dimensions. You know, the way that you say it, the look on your face, the clothes that you're wearing, a lot of different things nonverbally are expressed. Uh, Verbal is intermittent. Typically, we start and we stop, pause, and then the multiple, the nonverbal is continuous. As a matter of fact, the phrase that is said by nonverbal communication theorists is that you cannot not communicate. You cannot not communicate. Let's just say you're mad at your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, and you say, well, I'm mad at you, and you go into the bedroom and close the door. Until you come back outside of that room and open the door and come back out, you're still communicating to them, even though you're not in the same room. So the verbal is less subject to misinterpretation, although it can be, and whereas the nonverbal, which we said a while ago, is more ambiguous. Here's a very important thing: the impact. If the verbal and the nonverbal disagree, we believe the nonverbal. My wife once said to me, "I'm not irritated." I said, "I'm not irritated." No, I'm not irritated. I go, okay. I won't ask again, you know. But anyway, so I love this, by the way. I love this. Verbal is usually deliberate, and the nonverbal is often unintentional. But I love the fact that the book points out that we sometimes say things. We sometimes say things, and we didn't mean to say them. It just kind of came out, right? It's that surprise party someone's throwing for somebody else. The people that are going to have the surprise party, they don't know that it's being thrown. And so as you leave them on Wednesday, you see them say hi, and as you leave them say, "We'll see you Friday." Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. I guess I won't see you Friday. All right. Influences on nonverbal communication is culture. What is appropriate in one culture is not in another. In the United States, thumbs up is a good thing. In other countries, it's like the middle finger. A-OK typically is okay in the United States, although it's changed the meaning in different ways that you do it, higher or lower, something like that now. And in other countries, you've just called a man a woman, you've just called a woman, I believe, a prostitute is what they said that means. Talked about gender and how nonverbal varies from gender to gender. Women tend to smile more, use more facial expressions, use more head, hand, and arm gestures, although less expansive gestures. Women tend to touch others more, stand closer to others. They're more vocally expressive and they make more eye contact. These are stereotypes, by the way. We understand that these are stereotypes. There are women who are not all of those things, and there are men who are that way. And it's not a matter of being gay or straight or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that women tend to be more of that way. Functions of nonverbal communication: we use nonverbal to repeat the message. We might nod as we're saying yes. We sometimes substitute. Instead of saying yes, we just nod, or instead of saying bye-bye, we just wave as we walk away. A lot of times it's done to complement a message as we're speaking. We may gesture, that's nonverbal, what I'm doing right now. Sometimes we use it to accent or to actually make a message even stronger. We may talk to someone that we're mad at, says, this is your fault. And so we're using that point to accent what we're saying. We also use nonverbal, both vocally and uh, posture-wise, sometimes to regulate the flow of conversation. If we are talking, we think someone else is about to start talking, oftentimes we will speed up. That way they know that we're not quite done yet, so they need to wait till I'm done. I don't always pause because I want to keep going, and that way I'm not done yet. So when I'm done, then you can get it. Another thing is, I don't know if you've ever done this. I've had this happen. You walk up toward a group of people, and they're standing in kind of an open way. There's a place there that you can go in and stand. And as you approach the group, the group tightens up, and all of a sudden there's no place to stand that you were walking toward. Anyway, again, we already talked about the fact sometimes nonverbal contradicts each other. Nonverbal comes into play sometimes, by the way, with deception. The deception, there's certain things we do when we're trying to lie that are nonverbal, but it's really interesting because the book points out that we are accurate in detecting deception only slightly more than half the time, and we overestimate our abilities to see others' lies. And a very interesting thing, by the way, we have a strong tendency to judge other people's messages as truthful. We actually want to believe that no one would lie to us. Another fascinating part on this, and I don't know where it is in this paragraph or the next paragraph, but women typically are a little better than men at detecting deception. However, women's ability to detect deception actually drops when it is an intimate romantic relationship. Isn't that interesting? Types of nonverbal communication: body movement, our posture, how we stand, our gestures. The face and the eyes. The face and the eyes say so much. When we're looking at somebody, we're looking at them in the eyes and things along that line. Voice, how loud we're speaking, how soft we're speaking, what word we put an influence on. The book talks about that as well. The disfluencies that we have, I often call them filler words when we're talking about public speaking. I talked about appearance and physical attractiveness is actually something that affects how people think about other people. They actually ask some cool school-age kids just to sort of rate how much they wanted to be friends with different other kids in their class. And the ones that were regarded as better looking, more kids wanted to be friends with them. Clothing does make a statement about various things, and it's an important thing. Now, the next section is very, very important. It's about touch, and it is a very powerful thing. We need human touch. We literally need skin-to-skin contact. Without it, people will have emotional problems, mental problems, health, literally physical health problems are affected by how much or how little physical contact you have. When I say that, I don't mean sex per se. I'm just talking about physical human contact. They've done some studies. Now, they're not all necessarily in this book, but I'll tell you some that I know of. They found that the more infants are held by their mothers, the higher their IQ later in life. Fascinating. They've done studies that show that they did a study where they actually had one group of students who were going to take a test, and another group was going to take the same test. And for the one group of students, they actually did like a 10-minute shoulder massage, 10-minute shoulder massage right before the test. And that group did significantly better on the test than the other group. Isn't that interesting? So there's a lot of things that go into this. And so we need human touch. We really do. I normally have some assignments both in class and out of class. Can't really do them right now in this day and age of the pandemic and COVID. But someday when this is all past, do yourself a little favor, okay? Go up to somebody. Now use some discretion and some tact and wisdom about who and how and when and all that good stuff. But go up to somebody who's not expecting you to hug them and give them a hug. You'd be surprised at the response. I've had, in the years that I've done this, and literally hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of students that I've had go out and do this, I've had, out of all that, one or two that had something that, it's kind of a negative reaction. For the most part, it's been positive, and there have been dozens and dozens and dozens of extremely powerful, positive responses. One young lady walked up and hugged her dad. He started crying. Grown man started crying. And he told her, I thought you had not forgiven me after I divorced your mom. And carrying that weight around all that time. Another one hugged her new stepmother. Her dad had remarried, and she hugged her new stepmother, and her mother, her new stepmother, turned to her and started just almost weeping. This wasn't just tears like the dad, but said, I thought you hated me. And she said, I never hated you. And she said from that day forward, for the last whatever, they had spent an hour plus talking every day and were getting to be friends after not being friends that whole time. There are don't do this for this reason, okay? But there are kids that have come back and said that whoever it was they hugged, their mom, their dad, their grandmother, whoever it was, gave them money afterwards for some reason. Well, sometimes dad or mom might say, "Okay, what do you need? What did you do wrong?" And then some of us, hey, listen, here's some. I've been meaning to give you this. The record was $300. A young lady hugged her grandmother and said, "Oh, sweetie, you know what? Thank you for that. I needed that so much. You know what? I have been planning to give you this. It's been in this drawer over here for months now, and I keep forgetting. Hang on a second." She pulled open the door, pulled out an envelope, and handed the young lady $300. Again, don't do it for that reason. Don't do it for that reason. That's not the point. But touch is a powerful thing, and we all need human touch. We all need human touch, skin to skin contact, literally. The use of space, page 173, talks about distance and proxemics. I'm going to go from the public down to the reverse of what your book has. Public distance, 8 to 12 feet, or 12 feet and out. Social distance, 4 to 12 feet in that area. Personal distance, 18 inches to 4 feet. And then there's intimate distance, which is skin contact out to about 18 inches. And it's very telling. It's very telling. I saw two people who were standing so close to each other, like they were like inches apart, virtually 10 inches apart, maybe. And once in a while, they would stop and whisper in each other's ear. And I just thought, that's odd. They're not married. Well, then they ran off together. So, how close people stand does tell things. There's a territoriality, and I talk about this in class, and it's really interesting. If you're going to class, and of course, some of you are not right now. Some of you may watch this that are going to class, and I've said this in class. If you're going to class, people tend to sit in a certain place. And I've even encouraged students to go out and try this. Go sit in somebody else's chair. In another class, go sit down before they get there. And it's really interesting because people have gotten looks. People have had people walk up to them and say, "You're sitting in my chair." And even had people walk up and say, "Please get out of not please get out of my chair. Excuse me, get out of my chair." Now that person doesn't own that chair, right? It belongs to, in this case, either whatever college it is, it belongs to the college. But the person had sat in that chair every week for a certain amount of time, and in their mind, that was their chair. Territoriality. We also convey things to other people with our environment. You may be able to see behind me let's see, there's the Packer blanket that I hang on my window. Up there, sitting up, right. There it is. There's the Packer helmet. Let's see if I go this way. You can see there it is, the Packer cheese head. You may be able to guess I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. Now, if you look in this direction, you'll see all of my Alabama stuff. So, as you may know, it's been a pretty good year for me, except for the Packers. They lost in the NFC Championship game. Time and how we use time is important. Chronemics. It's called chronemics. If we go to the doctor's office, we can get there on time, but we probably won't be seen on time. On the other hand, if we don't show up in time, we may lose our appointment. And that's very cultural, by the way. Some cultures it's more acceptable to just be late. In ours, typically, a little late's okay. In certain places, it's certain things. It depends on the area and what it is. Building confidence in nonverbal communication. Tune out the words. Once in a while, do yourself a favor. Get a chance, and there's a big mall where there's a lot of people. Go sit in the middle of the mall and just watch people walk by. It's a fascinating thing. It really is. Tune out the words. Use perception checking. And pay attention to your own nonverbal behavior, because you may be saying things to other people that are not exactly what it was you meant to say. And if that's the case, that could be problematic. That is chapter 7 on nonverbal communication.